Hi everyone, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Nina and today I'm doing things a little bit differently. And I've been wanting to do a video where I do readings for people, like for 3 or 4 people perhaps in each video. And I basically do a reading for them. The whole premise of this video is like me doing the readings for the people, right? Like very mini readings. But I wanted to do this as a way to kind of help other people learn how to read cards and how I personally read like different combinations and things like that, and how I would read into some sort of situation, if that kind of makes sense. And also at the same time, like give a reading for someone, like I'm not charging anyone for this. It's more so practice for me and for anyone who is watching this who wants to get into tarot and things like that. And then along the way also, you'd be hearing different forms of advice that could potentially apply to you. So that's what we're doing today. I have a list of 4 people. I'm going to try to find a better way to organize all of this, because yesterday I had people basically DM me if they were interested in getting a mini tarot reading and if they wanted to be part of like a video idea I had, and this is what this is. And so I want to find a more organized way of like doing this, maybe like through email. We'll figure it out. I also don't know what I want to call this, because I do kind of want to make this a series where I pick a few people maybe once a week or once every other week to kind of just like do a reading for them and provide advice that could potentially even help someone else in the collective, and as well provide kind of like a tarot lesson, I guess you could say. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. And before I do, to all of the people that I ended up choosing, because this reading is for them, these readings are for them. To the 4 people that I ended up choosing, I just want to say really quick before you get into your reading, I just want to say really quick, please take this with a grain of salt. Even though this is a more personal reading, one, I am a little bit limited and restricted because I'm not able to communicate directly to you. This is like a video, so I can't immediately ask questions and like get an immediate response. You would have to like watch the video, and then if you feel the desire to like answer those questions and help each other out in terms of like further understanding what I'm reading, then we can do that. But like, so there's that thing, but also take it with a grain of salt, because the future is not set in stone. What I am reading right now is literally just a portrayal or a snapshot of the energy of right now. So that could very easily change in literally a week or a month or 3 months or 6 months or even a year. So just keep that in mind. Also, we all have free will. So if there's something that you don't like, you have the power to navigate differently. So there's that. All right, so let's just go ahead and get started with the first person. So the first person is Lydia. I have this all written down, and she asked, what is the biggest obstacle that stands in my way right now? So Lydia, let's see. Let's get into this. All right, so what is the biggest obstacle that is standing in Lydia's way right now? Oops. Too many cards. What is the biggest obstacle that is standing in Lydia's way right now? All right. Ooh, we have the 6 of Wands. Ooh, okay. I just got a notification. Okay, we have the 6 of Wands, Temperance reversed, and we have the 2 of Wands reversed. At the bottom of the deck is Death reversed, and under that is the 7 of Swords. So I'll try to get into these 2 cards in a little bit, but if not, then I'll try to graze over it. So we have the 6 of Wands, which basically talks about victory. I also kind of get this feeling for you, Lydia, that maybe you place a little bit too much of value on wanting to be famous or wanting to have a lot of fame or recognition or some form of status. And we have the 6 of Wands here, and we see this woman like celebrating. She's like relishing in the crowd cheering for her. So maybe that's something that you were putting a little bit of too much value in. Maybe you are kind of finding yourself, pursuing certain things because you feel that that is what is going to gain or help you reach that sense of fame, recognition, status, or even reputation or influence, or whatever the case is, something to do that with like people having their eyes on you and being the center of attention. But perhaps that thing isn't necessarily the thing that is all that emotionally fulfilling for you. So that could be the case. But I also have Temperance reverse, which to me kind of talks about how you want this, but you don't necessarily have the patience for it. Temperance reverse talks to me about like an imbalance in some way, or it talks about just like an overall impatience, not wanting to wait for the best timing. Like it's almost like you want instant gratification. And with the Two of Wands also, this Two of Wands reverse talks about, to me, someone who they see everyone else living out the dream that they want to live, right? And they want that. Like they want to live out that dream, but they hold themselves back. They impose some sort of restriction on themselves because maybe they don't believe in themselves. Maybe they feel that they're not competent enough. Maybe they feel that they don't have enough resources. Whatever the case may be, the Two of Wands reverse talks about someone who like really limits themselves, and they see everyone living out their dream, right? And they feel envious of them, but at the same time, they're not taking any sort of action. So maybe this is how you feel in your life. Maybe you see people around you living out their dream. Maybe you see people in their life who are receiving the fame and recognition and reputation that they have worked towards. And maybe that is discouraging for you rather than motivating you. And maybe you are hard on yourself because of that and kind of push yourself from doing that sort of thing, or you push yourself away from pursuing the thing that you enjoy or from pursuing the thing that you think would make you happy because you see other people doing it and you underestimate yourself, if that kind of makes sense. And I also feel with this Temperance reversed, especially with this card, I love the way that the illustrator / author included the sun and the moon, because I feel that this talks about basically not only like spiritual alignment and believing in divine timing and whatnot, but I also feel that this kind of talks about a balance or a need for balance between one's ego and identity, because that's what the sun is in astrology, is like your ego, your identity, your who you are as a person, I guess you could say, your adult self. And then we have the moon, which is your emotions, your instinctual self, your emotional self, so to speak. And so it's almost like there's an imbalance between these two, but whether it's like one planet invalidating the other, one side of you invalidating the other, or it could just be that one is overriding over the other. Maybe the ego is way too big and you're not paying attention much to your emotions. So it kind of feels for you, Lydia, that maybe there's a need for you to find a balance between your identity and ego versus your emotions and your instinctual responses, that sort of thing. So that's kind of what that feels like. And we have Death reversed here, which talks about kind of like a resistance to change, or like resistance to transformation, not wanting to go through with it, or just feeling really stuck and knowing that you have to go through some sort of transformation, but maybe you're having a difficult time in seeing things differently and changing your perspective. Or maybe there's just something that's holding you back from going through this massive transformation. And I feel like part of it has to do with the fact that there is kind of this difficulty or this challenge in finding a sort of spiritual alignment. So for you, maybe spiritual alignment can signify implementing a little bit more introspection, a little bit more reflection, and asking yourself, what is it that I really want to do in my life? What is it that I really enjoy? And is this something that I see myself pursuing in the long term? And kind of asking yourself these reflective sort of questions. Or maybe maybe spiritual alignment can signify going to yoga or meditation, or doing anything that just makes you feel a little bit more at peace and makes you feel like you are a little bit more centered with yourself, I guess you could say. So there's that. And then we have the Seven of Swords, which to me just talks about recklessness and a lack of planning. So maybe you are someone who is impulsive and you end up kind of making reckless or impulsive decisions without having any sort of plan, and then it all kind of falls apart. It could also be for you, Lydia, that maybe you get really passionate about something. You're like, okay, like I really want to do this. And you go through with it, and then you realize that you didn't really have a plan, and it all kind of trickles down, or you end up feeling unmotivated or discouraged because you followed that impulse rather than creating some sort of timeline or strategy or plan as to how to approach this sort of thing. Does that kind of make sense for you? So I hope that this resonates. I hope that it makes sense. Let me know if it does, and if, let me know what your thoughts are, and we can go back and forth after this video, Lydia, if you want to, and then we can further clarify anything. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to help and to answer for you. But I think that overall, the biggest obstacle that I see is a few things. So one, it's impatience and not necessarily having a clear vision as to what you want to do. Two, possibly putting way too much value on the Six of Wands, of trying too hard to be the center of attention. And three, the other thing could be just feeling really hard on yourself with this Two of Wands reversed, right? Kind of feeling unmotivated, feeling like you're not good enough for whatever it is that you want to pursue, and kind of being envious of other people while not taking action on your own accord to make whatever it is that you want to happen. And then also just an overall lack of planning and not seeing things from a different perspective. So there's that. I hope it resonates. I hope it makes sense. Let me know, Lydia, what you think. And if there's anyone else who is watching this who needed to hear this advice, I would like to hear what you have to say. And if there's anything else that perhaps you see that maybe I didn't, leave it down in the comments down below and tell me what you think. So with that being said, let's move on to the next person. All right, so next we have Adriana, and Adriana says, or she asks, what steps do I need to take, or what do I need to learn or go through in order to start my career? And she provided a little bit of a backstory with this, not necessarily backstory, but a little bit more context. Adriana says that she basically had, from what I recall, she basically finds interests in these things, right? And then she wants to pursue that, and then either lose interest or feels unmotivated or something along those lines. That's kind of what I remember from reading it, because I read this yesterday. I forgot to read through the entire thing, but that's kind of what I remember her saying, is her finding something and then losing interest and wanting to explore all these different avenues, but maybe not necessarily knowing how. So let's see what comes through for you, Adriana. Oh, shit. Okay, so what steps does Adriana need to take, or what does she need to learn in order to start her career? What steps does she need to take in order to... All right. So we have the Seven of Wands. I like this a lot because I think it's very fitting. The Seven of Wands, the Five of Wands, the Ten of Wands reversed, and at the bottom of the deck is Temperance, and then under that is the Eight of Swords. So, Adriana, so what it seems to me is that you're placing a little bit of pressure on yourself, right? Trying to figure everything out very quickly, and I think that's something that a lot of us Gen Z, millennial, early millennial people are kind of struggling with right now. I think a lot of young people in general just struggle with this a lot. I feel that a lot of us, we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves, usually because it's because society puts pressure on ourselves to basically figure out what we want to do. And it's almost like we're wasting our time if we don't find things immediately, or if we find something and then we enjoy it for a little bit and then we lose interest, or we want to do something else. It's almost like we have to find something and stick to that no matter what. And I feel like it's almost looked down upon to change our minds, to have a different perspective. And with the Seven of Wands, it could be that you feel a lot of pressure in terms of finding the right career for you. And I know that you emphasized how you want to do something that you are happy doing, that you love doing, and you are definitely not the only one who feels that way. I definitely get you, and this is also is something that I have struggled with in the past, and I still continue to struggle with from time to time, in terms of like career and what I want to do and like school and all of this other stuff. So I get it. And with the Seven of Wands, this to me reads as, especially with this card, with this specific deck, I think this to me kind of talks about like maintaining your resolve or your peace, or kind of finding some sort of like form of centeredness throughout all of the chaos, if that kind of makes sense. I mean, okay, so this is what I mean, right? We have all of these wands here and they're like kind of poking and prodding, but the woman here, right, she is like not even giving them any mind. She's paying no mind, and she is in her own world. She is centered and she's in meditation and she's just contemplating. So I think that part of you, or for part of this reading, I think that for the Seven of Wands, this talks about kind of allowing yourself to contemplate and to kind of like sit still for a little bit. It could be that maybe meditation would actually be really helpful for you, and in asking your guides what the best path would be for you in terms of like what you want to explore, what you want to do in your career and stuff like that. I think that through meditation, you would be able to help yourself a lot in like listening to your intuition and things along those lines. It's just like meditating on it and, you know, being receptive to the answers that your spirit guides provide for you, because I think that, you know, they I don't want to say that they know best, but I feel that they see things that we don't, and they can help us in doing that. So I think not paying attention so much to the pressure that is around you, even though that in and of itself is a challenge. But it's almost like toning out or drowning out all the pressure, all of like this opposition or obstacle, or like the opinions of other people, and listening to your heart, listening to your gut, listening to what your spirit guides have to say, listening to like the quiet, right? Finding answers in the silence, finding answers in like your intuition and like what your guides have to say, like listening to the synchronicities that your guides present to you, which is already kind of like an elusive answer. I get that, but we'll get further into it, I guess. So that's one thing. I also think with the Seven of Wands, this to me talks about like being very diligent and determined and not letting obstacles, not letting other people's opinions get the best of you, not letting other people sway you or like tell you what to do if that has been an issue for you. Excuse me. Like I said, listening to your own gut and just continuing to like basically continue what you're doing and like fighting back against like any sort of obstacle or people who are against you or any sort of disapproval that other people project onto you. Learning how to fight against that. And what I enjoy about the Seven of Wands, when it's upright, this to me talks about someone who's an underdog and someone who they can like overcome the situation. Like having the Seven of Wands upright to me really talks about like how you are going to win. It might take a little bit of struggle, it might take some conflict and tension, but that's okay, because like it's going to work out in your favor at the end of the day, as long as you are resilient and determined and you don't let these people knock you down. So we have the what is this, the Five of Wands, which talks about conflict and tension. So this could be like your own inner conflict. What steps do I need to take? Okay, so in terms of what steps you need to take in order to kind of help start your career and what you need to learn, I think this talks to me about like not shying away from conflict. If you are someone who tries to like impress other people, impress your parents, try to make your parents happy, try to live up to some sort of expectation, I feel like all of this is really talking about how you are being pushed in the direction of like not shying away from any sort of conflict or ripples that you might create by following your dreams or by following whatever it is that you are drawn to in that moment. I think that you need to allow yourself to explore different things. And with this Ten of Wands reversed, it's really interesting that this card came out for you, because this to me talks about how for you, Lydia, or not Lydia, for you, Adriana, I think this talks a lot about like letting go of the burdens that other people place on you and letting go of the burdens that other people place on themselves. And it's almost, if you kind of deal with the issue of, you know, your parents trying to live vicariously through you, and like wanting you to be in a certain career because maybe they didn't want to, maybe because they weren't able to live out that dream for themselves. I feel that that is not a burden that is worth for you to carry. That is not a carry that you need to be, that is not a that is not a burden that you need to be carrying in your life. That's not something that is even yours. That's not even your energy. That's not your problem. And I understand like this desire to, you know, live up to your parents' expectations, to impress them, to make them happy. But putting our happiness aside to make someone else happy, even if it's our parents, isn't fair to us. And we need to work on putting ourselves first. And, you know, obviously this isn't easier said than done. This is something that I have struggled with in the past, and I still think about a lot, and I always fear disappointing my parents, because, or specifically my mom, because I live with her and I'm the closest to her. I fear disappointing her a lot of the time, and I just want to make her happy. But at the same time, I can't beat myself up and like carry all of these burdens and all of these dreams that aren't even mine to fulfill. And so with the Ten of Wands reverse, this to me talks about needing to let go of any sort of burdens that you carry on your shoulders, whether it's the expectations of your parents or of other people, or even just the expectations and high standards that you place on yourself to figure everything out at once. Because that's just not a burden worth carrying. And by carrying all these burdens, you only lose sight of what it is that you truly desire. So really what I want to ask you is like, what is it that brings up a passion in you? What is the thing that you really love to do? What's the thing that you find purpose in? What's something that you can see yourself doing for the rest of your life? What's something that like when you do it, you feel like you have a sense of purpose. You feel like you can change the world in some way, if that's something that you want to do. Like, what is it that really just drives you to be better and to do better? You know, it's that sort of thing. And we have Temperance, which talks about like learning how to be patient. And again, it talks about, again, this whole meditation, this whole spiritual alignment thing. And I love that it falls right under the Seven of Wands, which is to me the whole meditation, perhaps even yoga, or just overall introspection. And this talks about balance. This talks about like things being in harmony. And I think you really need to learn how to listen to your own gut rather than kind of allowing yourself to be trapped or imprisoned in your own mind. Because I do have this Eight of Swords, which talks about like this helplessness, this feeling of powerlessness, and you are far from powerless. You are far from helpless, right? And it might feel like that, and you might feel kind of like this existential dread or this existential crisis within you because maybe you feel like you don't have everything figured out. But it's okay if you don't have everything figured out. It's okay if you don't figure out whatever it is that you want to pursue right now. I'm assuming that you're young. I'm assuming that you're like either in high school or in college, you know, like 20s, whatever. I'm assuming this, you know, I could be wrong, but I just, like I said, we as young people place so much pressure on ourselves to figure everything out. And if we don't figure out what we want to do by the time that we're like 21, 23, that's okay. If we don't figure it out by the time that we're 25, that's okay. I really encourage you to explore what it is that you enjoy and not let the pressure or the expectations of the outside world get to you. It's okay if you stir the pot a little bit. It's okay if you cause a little bit of tension or friction with the people around you because they just don't approve of what you want to pursue. Does that kind of make sense? And this isn't to say that, like, it's okay if people treat you poorly because of that. That's not what I'm, like, trying to, you know, like, put out. But I'm saying that it's so, like, what I'm trying to say is to not shy away from the face of opposition, if that kind of makes sense. You know, if there is a little bit of tension or friction, you know, rather than hiding away from it or of trying to avoid it or trying to appease other people, continue following what makes you happy. So I want to clarify this Five of Wands in terms of like what steps you need to take and see what we get here. So what does this Five of Wands signify for Adriana in terms of what steps they need to take to start their career? I also feel like it's important for you, Adriana, to, how do I say this? Like, not give in to like the competition of other people or like feel that you have to compete with other people, because you really don't. Like, you don't have to compete for other people to like, I guess, be happy or to like be the best, if that kind of makes sense. Like, this isn't a competition of like who figures out what they want to do the quickest. We have the Nine of Swords, which talks to me a lot about like you really overthinking, you being hard on yourself, and you really being you stressing out a lot, you feeling very anxious, specifically about your future, which I understand, and I can definitely relate to this. And again, that pressure, I understand like that pressure and like, you know, trying to figure out your way into adulthood. Because there really is no, like, I guess, proper way of doing it, or, what's the word? Like, we think that there's a set way of doing things, right? We think that there is, like, a right or wrong way of doing everything, but I just feel like there isn't. And we put so much pressure on ourselves to be, like, the perfect people and, like, live in this capitalistic society. And that's just, like, it's just not the case. So again, you know, I feel that a big thing for you is learning how to let go of the burdens of other people, that like the burdens that other people place on you or the burdens that you place on yourself, all of this pressure, because all of this pressure is kind of pushing you away from your end goal, and it's making you lose sight of your end goal. And with this Magician reverse, this talks about like an ineffective use of your skills or resources, and or like just paying attention to the wrong things. So this to me kind of just reads as you have everything that you need right in front of you, but you're not paying attention to it because either you're trying to please other people or because you're just focusing on all of the wrong things. You're focusing on perhaps like making other people happy, or focusing on something that is a little bit more traditional, or something that is that you know is going to be very secure, but maybe is not going to be the thing that makes you entirely happy. So in this case, it's kind of like how people, you know, they look for a job and they want it to be financially stable. It's almost like with an artist, so to speak. You know, a lot of people are kind of talked down on artists because they think that being an artist isn't necessarily the most financially stable career. However, like if you're dedicated to your craft and if you believe in yourself and if you put yourself out there and do all of the things necessary of you to kind of put your name out and work and promote yourself, then you are going to gain a stable career. And if you are the type who, you know, like I think you mentioned something about like financial stability and like how you want to be financially stable, but you also want to be doing something that makes you happy. I feel that maybe there's a little bit too much emphasis on like, will this be financially I don't even want to say that it's like a financial, like I don't want to say to not focus on financial stability, because that is an important thing for you, but like how do I articulate this? Basically, with the Magician reverse, this tells me that you have everything that you need, all of the resources, you have all of the skills, the talents to explore whatever it is that you want to explore, but your focus is elsewhere. It's like your attention is distracted. And then with the Magician reverse, this also just talks about someone who doesn't really believe in themselves. This is someone who literally has everything that they need, but they don't see it within themselves. They're really hard on themselves. They don't think that they're good enough. They don't believe in their manifesting abilities, and so they end up manifesting that, you know. And so that's just, I guess, something to keep in mind for you, Adriana, is like learning how to hone in on your skills and on your abilities, and using them in a way that makes you happy and feel emotionally fulfilled, perhaps, rather than focusing solely on whether or not this career is going to be financially stable. Again, yes, financial stability is important, but it shouldn't be the end all be all for something that you do. And it shouldn't, the possibility of perhaps not starting off immediately financially stable shouldn't stop you from exploring an avenue that you would want to enjoy, if that makes sense. I went on for really long in this video. I'm so sorry. But I hope that this makes sense for you. So I hope it resonates. I hope it was helpful. Adriana, you and I have like talked through DM, so like we can talk in private a little bit more about this. I'm a little bit limited because I don't have like your immediate response right now, so we can talk in private all about this and like settle out all the details. But I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that, wow, my ear is ringing really loud right now, but I hope that this was helpful, and it provided some sort of sense of ease in what in your question, essentially. So yeah. With that being said, let's just go to the next person. Okay, so next we have an anonymous person. Actually, they wanted to be anonymous, so I respect their wishes. But they asked me, it's funny because 3 of the people asked about their career. So we're getting a lot of career advice stuff going on here. But Anonymous asks, what guidance do I need on my journey to success in my entertainment career? So let's see, what guidance do they need on their journey to success in their entertainment career? What guidance do they need? All right, so, okay, so we have the world reversed. Okay, so this could be like a lack of fulfillment or a lack of closure. Could also be like some sort of unfinished business. We have the 6 of Wands, and we have the Queen of Pentacles reversed, and then under that we have the 2 of Swords reversed, the 8 of Cups reversed, and the Ace of Wands, and then under that is the Empress. So the world reverse basically talks about some sort of like unfinished business, some form of a lack of closure, whether it's somewhere in your life that you feel like you haven't tied up any sort of loose ends, or this could even be the like repeat of a cycle. So I actually want to get clarity on this. Maybe this lack of closure or this repeated cycle, this repeat of history has to do with maybe your own self, because with the Queen of Pentacles reversed, this talks about someone who doesn't really believe in themselves, someone who has kind of been conditioned to believe that they need other people in order to be successful or in order to be happy. It's kind of like developing some form of like codependency. So maybe you feel like you can't do things on your own. Maybe you feel like you need to have other people holding your hand in the entire journey in order to help you. So if that's the case, then the guidance that I can provide for you is to work on any sort of codependent tendencies that you might have. This is also just someone who kind of gives up on the first try and expects other people to do it for them. So if that's also the case for you, then work on kind of unlearning that and teaching yourself that you can do things on your own, that you are a strong person, that you can, like be what everyone else is, if that kind of makes sense, or even better. So with the Queen of Pentacles reversed, I kind of imagine someone, a lot of the time I always imagine someone, for example, specifically like a woman who has been conditioned to believe that she can't do anything on her own and that she has to be like this incredibly submissive person who puts their needs to the side and puts the other needs of others before them, and is kind of like conditioned to believe that the only thing that they're good at is like house chores, And so whenever it comes to do like manly things, the man of the house has to do it. And so it's kind of like this conditioning of like believing that you can't, for example, build something, or that you can't fix the sink, or that you can't like unclog the toilet or some shit. Like it's that sort of like really unhealthy belief. And so if this is something that you struggle with, and it doesn't have to be like those prior examples, but if there's in some way that you feel that there's something that you can't do because you have to have the help of someone else, or if you feel that you can't do something without anyone like by your side, then this is kind of saying how you might need to work on like, again, unlearning those codependent tendencies, or unlearning this sort of conditioning in order to get back on the right track, so to speak. But I want to clarify this world reversed for you. So let's see what comes through. Can we clarify this world reversed for Anonymous? What does this world reversed mean? Like lack of fulfillment or lack of closure. What history is being repeated? What is this, please? It could be that there's something from your past that is holding you back from reaching your full potential. Maybe it's a person or a situation that you keep on going back to, or that just somehow finds you, that can't seem to completely end. Oops. So we have the Four of Wands reversed, and it's so funny because we have the Two of Swords reversed again. So this is some sort of denial about something, some sort of truth or reality that you might not want to accept. And we have the Five of Wands right under that, and the Ace of Swords reversed, which talks about, it can be self-sabotage, but this can also be like being stuck on a certain perspective, or like believing that things have to be one way. Like it's just being stuck in a certain mindset. And it's time for a new frame of mind, essentially. So basically, Four of Wands reversed, this can be like a disharmonious relationship, or some sort of change that is going on in your life, or like in your immediate environment. This to me just talks about like change. Yeah, this talks to me about change in your immediate environment. This talks about disharmonious relationships or conflict within your relationships, whether it's like friendship or in family or romantic relationships, whatever the case might be. And with the Two of Swords reversed, it talks about like not wanting to face the reality of a situation. Maybe it's the fact that you don't want to let go of this cycle. Maybe it's the fact that you don't want to let go of this situation or this person, this circumstance, this job. Whatever this is, this talks about to me how change is really necessary, especially with the Four of Wands. It could be that it's very necessary for you to change your environment, change the people that you surround yourself with, change your job, change maybe even your major, I don't know. But with the Two of Swords reversed, it's like this is a denial. You don't want to accept this reality. You want to kind of turn your cheek the other way and not allow yourself, or like just not like face the reality of a situation. Just like you want to keep the blindfold on, if that kind of makes sense. So let's continue. Let's further clarify this world reversed. Yeah, so we have the Ace of Wands and we have the Ace of Cups reversed. So there is an idea, there's something that you want, and we have the Devil at the bottom of the deck. So there's something that you keep falling back into, whatever this is, whether, and then again, we have this Two of Wands, which is like that restriction, not believing in yourself, like not wanting to like not taking the action necessary in order for you to live out your dream. It just feels like a lot of restriction in some way. So we have the Ace of Wands, which is the passion, the idea, the wanting to follow something new. And then we have the Ace of Cups reversed, which is like emotional depletion. It is feeling emotionally unfulfilled. So it seems like you're just not emotionally fulfilled, but there's something that you want to pursue, but maybe there's someone or something that is holding you back. Maybe for you, maybe this Queen of Pentacles isn't you, but perhaps a mother figure in your life or someone else in your life who is almost like this helpless figure and who always turns to you for help, and perhaps by asserting your independence or standing your ground or doing something for yourself, that takes away the attention from them and onto you, and maybe they don't like that. Maybe they don't like the fact that you are the center of attention. Maybe they don't like the fact that you want something more for yourself in your career. Maybe they don't like the fact that, you know, that you don't need them, right? And so they kind of go back to them needing you, and like them kind of almost like holding you back in your career, if that kind of makes sense. So that's also a possibility. And we have the devil, which talks about like an unhealthy situation or unhealthy habits, relationship, just something in your life that perhaps is instantly gratifying, but at the end of the day does not provide long-term fulfillment or long-term happiness. And this is like a really endless cycle. And it could even be that you feel like a puppet on like with puppet strings and everything, and maybe you feel like you were out, like the world is outside of your control, and maybe you feel helpless in some sort of way. Whatever this is a cycle that just continues happening, and it's something that you need to grow out of. I don't specifically know what this cycle is. You would have to clarify that for me and let me know. And we can like definitely like further talk about this and everything in private, but it does seem like there's just some sort of cycle that you have to let go of, that you're having a really hard time letting go of. And it can be because it's instantly gratifying, because even though it might not be the best of circumstances, it's easy to fall back into because it's familiar. So let's go ahead and clarify this Queen of Pentacles reversed. Oh shit, too many cards are falling out. All right, so what does this Queen of Pentacles reversed signify for Anonymous? Can we clarify this Queen of Pentacles reversed? Can we clarify this Queen of Pentacles reversed, please, as to what guidance they need on their journey to success in the entertainment career. All right, so we have the Tower reversed. Ooh, Three of Swords. Wow, why is there so much heartbreak surrounding this? So maybe this is another person outside of you. And we have the Wheel of Fortune reversed. So this feels like unfinished business with someone, whether maybe it's an earth sign, or maybe it's a motherly figure in your life, a maternal figure in your life. Maybe it's a friend of yours, or perhaps someone who is older than you. So I don't know, like, again, you would have to clarify whether this is you or another person in your life, but there seems to be some sort of heartbreak with this person if it is another person. We have the Tower reversed, which talks about like having been warned to walk away, or having been warned to like leave the situation alone and to no longer like hold on to it, but ignoring those warnings. And we have the Wheel of Fortune reversed, which also talks about like history repeating itself. It talks about unfinished business. It talks about a lot of loose ends. And we have the Three of Swords, which talks about heartbreak. And then under that is the Eight of Cups reversed, which is like not able or not being willing to walk away from either this person or the situation. So whatever this is for you, Anonymous, it really feels as though there is a cycle in your life that could be holding you back in terms of your career and success in the entertainment industry. And it could possibly even be that you have been warned about this person, or that you have known that things weren't necessarily going to end well, but maybe you find yourself going back to this person for whatever reason that might be, and it feels like that is what is between you and your success in entertainment, if that kind of makes sense. It really just feels like there's this person or the situation, like this Queen of Pentacles reverse energy is really what is holding you back from reaching the Six of Wands. Like that's ultimately what you want, is the success and the victory and like that recognition and stuff like that. But someone or something is holding you back, and it potentially could even be yourself. But there's just some sort of unfinished business, and you may have been warned about this person or situation in the past, but it feels like you may have ignored it because, you know, they got their claws into you. and maybe you don't want to accept, right? Because we have that Two of Swords reverse. It's like being in denial of the truth. So that's what I have for you, love. I hope that this helps or resonates. We can talk about this more in private, and we can kind of get all the details worked out, because again, I'm not able to like ask questions in this video. So yeah, I hope it helps. I hope it resonates. I hope it did something for you, and we can talk about it soon, later. So yeah, with that being said, let's just go ahead to the next person. Okay, so lastly, we have Lorley, and she asked, where is my energy headed for 2020 career-wise? So let's get into it for you, Lorley. So where is Lorley's energy headed for 2020 career-wise? Where is Lorley's energy headed towards in 2020 career-wise? Where's Lorley's energy headed towards career-wise? Gotta cut that picture over. Ooh, we have the Seven of Swords. And then two other cards fell out. We have the Four of Swords and the Page of Pentacles. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Five of Swords. So a lot of thinking, a lot of mind activity. Okay, so we have the Seven of Swords, we have the Four of Swords, and we have the Page of Pentacles. So it seems to me, in terms of where your energy is headed in 2020, in terms of your career, it seems as though there might be things that you want to do that you feel perhaps suddenly passionate over with the Seven of Swords, right? That you feel suddenly passionate over and you really want to go through it, but perhaps you don't necessarily have the most solid plan. And so that could lead to like reckless behaviors or decisions, impulsivity, or having just really scattered energy because there's a little bit of a lack of focus, perhaps because you want to get everything done immediately, or because you know, you want to have like an instant gratification sort of thing, or you just get really caught up in the adrenaline or in the excitement of having this new thing. And so I feel as though you are definitely being encouraged to take a little bit of a break whenever that happens, to cut yourself some slack, to rest, to think about it before you really get anything done, and to definitely allow yourself to like meditate and work on like centering your energy and finding a focal point in terms of your focus rather than having your energy everywhere at once. It kind of feels like you need to bring your energy into one space so you have a clarity as to what you want to do, what you want to follow, what you want to pursue, that sort of thing. And with the Page of Pentacles, this talks about planting seeds. And I feel that in 2020, it could be that you really want to plant seeds. And I think with this Page of Pentacles, we have to remember that Page is someone very young. And I understand that with someone very young, there is a little bit of that impulsive energy. And so it could feel that you have all of these ideas and that there's so many seeds that you want to plant. And yes, you are welcome to plant those seeds, but do it with I guess, wisdom, or with knowing, or it's not necessarily do it with precaution, but know what you're getting yourself into, essentially. You know, it's good that you want to plant seeds, and it's good that you want to start perhaps different projects or do different things, but it's also important not to like put all of your ducks in one basket, or it's good to like not plant every single thing immediately. Give, you know, your seeds some time to like grow and sprout, and then see if you want to plant some more, if that kind of makes sense. And we have the Five of Swords, which talks about like an empty victory. This to me, especially because it would fall right under the Seven of Swords. This talks to me about like, yeah, you got your way and yeah, you started this project, but do you really feel all that fulfilled? So I think it's important for you to learn what actually fulfills you in terms of your career and what doesn't. And like not going out of your way to try to like win some sort of competition, or like try to somehow like beat someone else, or like kind of like have like this just like petty drama or like petty competition when the competition really doesn't have to be like there, and kind of take your, kind of like put a little bit more stake into your victories. Not like steak like the food, but like this, like what I'm trying to say is that, you know, there could be times where you want to have like some sort of victory, but is that victory really worth it? Is it actually a fulfilling sort of victory, or is it just an empty victory where it doesn't really help you in any sort of way? It's more of like bragging rights, and even with bragging rights, it doesn't do much. Like it doesn't help you in any sort of way. Does that make sense? And we have the Hanged Man reversed, which talks about how you might feel stuck at times in 2020, and it could be that maybe you feel frustrated with the fact that you have to take a break sometimes, because right above the Hanged Man would be the Four of Swords. So it could be that in 2020 you really like want to go through with action, like you really want to get things done. Maybe you even feel like you have this competitive sort of nature, but the Hanged Man and the Four of Swords really tells me that that these projects and these endeavors might not really work out in your favor. And I think it's because you're either trying to rush them, or you're trying to gain like a notch on your belt, if that kind of makes sense. And so it feels like the 2020 is kind of a time for you to like slow down a little bit, to plant your seeds, and to plan which seeds you want to plant, rather than kind of just like throwing them all into the dirt and hoping that one of them sprouts. That's not really like the whole vibe that you want to go through with. But we have the Magician, and under that the Six of Wands, which is really good energy. And the Magician falls right under the Page of Pentacles, which tells me that you have all of the tools and resources in order to manifest what it is that you want. But I would really encourage you not to get so caught up in like empty victories, or in things that maybe for a minute you get really excited about, and then like the next you're like over it, right? It's kind of like picking and choosing what it is that you actually want to pursue, so that you don't overinvest your energy and spread yourself thin. I also feel with the Seven of Swords to be careful of overestimating yourself. Be careful of really like I said, spreading yourself too thin, and like doing and like taking on all of these like endeavors that perhaps at one point you were really into, but then you either like lose interest, or you feel like you have too much on your plate. So again, a lot of this has to do with like learning how to manage your energy, and learning how to invest yourself, and learning what you want to invest yourself in, rather than going into something like without having any sort of clear idea as to what you want to do, or having any clear idea as to how you want to approach this project or endeavor. And again, I think a lot of this has to do with like learning how to have a plan, and thinking things through, having a sense of strategy with this Four of Swords, which is, the Four of Swords is not only rest, but this to me is also like meditation, and like thinking things through, like taking a break from all of the chaos, so that you can look at things a little bit more objectively. Because when you're able to rest, when you're able to rejuvenate your mind, when you're able to do all of that, you look at things differently. Like, you know, when you are looking at a puzzle one day and you're trying to figure it out, but you can't. And so like you literally take a minute to like maybe take a nap or do something else. And then you come back and you see exactly what it is that you had to do, because you have a fresh perspective, because you gave your mind a break and your mind isn't like going overdrive. That's kind of what it feels like to me. So just like keep that in mind. And with this Hanged Man reversed, I really feel like there might be times in 2020 in your career where you feel stuck and you want to try to like force something to happen. But the best option when you feel this stuck is to give yourself a break, to gain a new perspective, to let your mind rest, let your eyes rest, so that you can see things differently, and not try to force a situation to happen, and not end up in a situation where perhaps you have a victory but it doesn't really mean much at the end of the day, So I hope that helps in some way. I hope that it resonates. I hope that it provides some sort of clarity for you, Laura Lee. Of course, just like with everyone else, you are welcome to like DM me and we can talk about like the details and whatnot, because I am a little bit limited in terms of like this and like doing all of the videos and like you guys seeing it and all of that. So I hope it helps. I hope it resonates. Let me know if it does, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. All right, love. So that is all the people that I'm doing readings for. What did you think of this? It was a fun idea. I enjoyed doing it, but I just felt really limited, and honestly, I felt really limited, and I started questioning myself in these videos, so I don't know if I'm gonna end up like doing this again. We'll see, I guess. If you enjoyed this, if you got anything out of this, let me know. I would love to hear your feedback in general, if this is something that you would continue watching, if you want this to be like a series or something. I don't know. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.